Let's head to that dank, dark corner of horror, housing the films made with the most passion and the least amount of money. It's another video in a series I affectionately call Low Budget Binge. Let's start binging. Low Budget Binge is where we venture down the path less traveled and look at low budget, no budget, and sometimes international films that never get that top billing you see with the usual Hollywood fare. I'll indicate in the review down below where you can find these films along with their trailers. Here we go. Foil is new on demand from Cranked Up Films. It's directed by Zach Green and written by Zach Green and Devin O'Rourke. After being evicted from his house in LA, wannabe screenwriter Dexter, played by Zach Green, returns to his hometown and lives in his mother's basement until he can get on his feet. Dexter runs into his old friend Rex, played by Devin O'Rourke, who convinces Dexter to head to the desert to find a vortex for inspiration and guidance to make his next move. But once in the desert, they meet a friendly hiker named Tom, played by Chris Dubeck, who claims to possess foil that may come from an extraterrestrial crash site, taking Dex and Rex on an adventure of a lifetime. Foil is a lighthearted genre comedy, and while I rarely get to cover films like that, I found it to be a refreshing palate cleanser from the heavier horror films that I've seen lately. It's also a fun comic romp. This low-budgeter depends greatly on conversational comedy, and while I don't know for sure, there is such a comfortable feel to the way filmmakers, lead actors Zach Green and Devin O'Rourke interact, and these conversations seem so fluid, it's as if these two have known each other for years. Or maybe they're just good at acting like they have. Either way, these two guys banter back and forth for most of the film, yet I wasn't bored for a minute. Foil goes into some goofy directions, some pushing the envelope as to what they might be able to pull off on such a small budget, but nevertheless, there's a charm to this movie that really endeared this one to me. Maybe it was the meta commentary about Dexter being a writer with big dreams, but nothing really to show for it yet. Maybe it was the direct way Rex teases and taunts Dexter, but still seems to believe in him. Or maybe it's just seeing two guys in a buddy movie discovering themselves. We really haven't seen many movies like that lately. Either way, this is a low-stakes, low-budget, genre-adjacent film. There are some low-key special effects that aren't great, but they just add to the charm. Zach Green and Devin O'Rourke have put together a Clerks-esque film about two characters you can't help but root for. If you're into snappy conversational comedy with a hint of science fiction, you might want to try out Foil. Faceless After Dark is new on demand from Dark Sky Films. It's directed by Raymond Wood and written by Todd Jacobs and Jenna Kanell. Jenna Kanell plays Bowie, an actress who gained horror movie fame after starring in a killer clown movie. Overwhelmed by adoring fans and creepy internet stalkers, Bowie struggles with her stardom when left alone by her more successful actress girlfriend, Jessica, played by Danielle Lynn, who leaves for an extended movie shoot. When an obsessed fan breaks into her place, Bowie attacks and kills him, awakening something dark in Bowie's psyche. Okay, this review will most likely come off as mean, but this is a mean movie to begin with. I wouldn't know, but I'm sure the struggle is real when it comes to fame. I imagine never getting a moment's rest and being the subject of all kinds of weird fantasies from creepers wears on you. But Faceless After Dark feels somewhat full of itself, and while I'm sure Jenna Kanell has her fans having starred in the film Terrifier, which became somewhat of a phenomenon, seeing this actress turn on those who got her the stardom in the first place feels off in many ways. Don't get me wrong, I'm not condoning stalking or assaulting or anything like that, but Bowie comes off as ungrateful right from the get-go as she exasperatedly interacts with a guy who just wants to have a photo with her. Later, when her girlfriend is approached by a fan, Bowie seems jealous of her stardom and hurt when the fan doesn't recognize her as an actress as well. These aren't traits that make an audience feel for a character, and while the stalking and online harassment give Bowie an excuse to strike back, it seems she was ungrateful of the stardom she had from the beginning. So from the get-go, Bowie is a tough character to like, making it hard to empathize with her when she goes off the deep end in this descent into madness tale. I get it that it would be annoying, but let's face it, Jenna Kanell isn't a household name, and if she can't cope with the stardom, it's probably going to be pretty easy for her to get out of the business. But Bowie doesn't want that. She just doesn't seem to like it that she's only recognized by a killer clown movie. Kanell's a young actress. I'm sure if she had a tiny bit of patience, she can leave the horror genre and appear in other movies and maybe find the kind of fame she's looking for. But honestly, Kanell feels kind of like a brat to me, or at least this character does. And since the character she plays is inspired by real life, one can only assume she feels that way about her fans, stardom, and the genre. The post-credits sequence has an online reviewer, not unlike myself, saying the same thing I just elaborated on, I guess in an attempt to shush the naysayers or put them in the same category as the online harassers, stalkers, pedos, rapists, Christians, and other miscreants Bowie gets rid of through the course of the film, which again doesn't award Kanell much likability as she co-wrote and produced this film. Is this a compelling movie? Unlikable lead aside, I guess as a descent into madness, I've seen worse. Director Raymond incorporates a lot of flashes and strobe effects along with quick cuts of surreal scenes, which illustrate the fracturing of Bowie's mind pretty well. The kills are occasionally gory, nowhere near Terrifier levels of gruesome, but the typical carnage you see in most revenge films. Of course, there's a castration tossed in for good measure, which seems to be a must in the feminist rage revenge fantasy genre. The kills are nothing new and don't really hit hard, mainly because the victims are extreme traits and caricatures rather than characters. Again, to be clear, Bowie's victims are all pretty horrible, but Kanell seems to portray all of her fans in this light. In my experience, that's just not the case. Having been behind and in front of tables at conventions, attending as a fan, and tabling to promote my own comic books, I often found fans to be kind, sometimes awkward, but genuinely good people. There are celebrities who have worked these conventions who seem to genuinely listen and get recharged interacting with people who admire their work. Sure, there's the occasional weirdo or nut fan, and there's also the occasional egotistical star, but for the most part, cons have been a pretty positive experience for me. I'm sorry Kanell's experience has been so bad. Or maybe she feels like she's better than all of that. Had she portrayed maybe one fan as likable or genuinely nice, or even treated a nervous fan with respect and empathy, maybe Bowie could have come off as less arrogant and more likable. Whether it was purposeful or not, Faceless After Dark does a good job of illustrating Bowie's, i.e. Kanell's, contempt for fans and online personalities. It also offers up a protagonist who is hard to sympathize with. This feels like a movie made out of spite, almost as a gotcha for fans and critics, by a young actor who is angry she is not a bigger star and ashamed of the stardom that she's accumulated. I went into Faceless After Dark liking Kanell for her wonderful performance in Terrifier. Sadly, I left this movie liking her a little less. Now that Kanell has all of this anger out of her, I look forward to seeing what the talented actress has up next. But this film makes me wonder how Kanell will feel 10 years down the line when she matures and learns to appreciate what she's got. Faceless After Dark is an angry movie. I don't know what happened for those involved to get that angry, but I hope this is a cathartic experience for them. I don't know what message it's trying to communicate other than portraying the lead character as a victim and casts a broad net atop who it points its anger towards. Festival of the Living Dead is new streaming on Tubi. It's directed by Jen Soska and Sylvia Soska, the Soska sisters, and written by Miriam, Lyapin, and Helen Marsh. 55 years after the original zombie outbreak, as depicted in George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead, a group of teenagers left on their own for a week decide to celebrate by attending a musical festival commemorating the event. When a new outbreak occurs, the group, which includes the granddaughter of Night of the Living Dead's Ben Cooper named Ash, played by Ashley Moore, and her best friend Iris, Gotham's Cameron Bicondova. The two besties have become estranged since Ash started dating preppy boy Kevin, played by Gage Marsh, which serves as the main drama during this new zombie apocalypse. Apparently, Festival of the Living Dead was set to be released in early October, but after the tragic festival attack on October 7th, the film was shelved and released as a Tubi exclusive. While the Soska sisters have delivered a few potent films, including the exceptionally good American Mary, I think a lack of budget might have kneecapped this film from the get-go. First off, if you're planning on making a movie about a festival, you really should make sure you're able to deliver on the size and scope of said festival. Lots of tricks such as tight shots, reusing background performers, and limiting the time actually spent at the Festival of the Dead were used to make it seem like this was an epic event. But unfortunately, it still shows through that they might have nabbed 30 or 40 people to occupy the crowd as extras, and I'm being kind with that number. The time spent actually at the fest is limited, with the cast in cars going to and from the fest, reminding me of Jason Voorhees' taking of Manhattan when he spent most of the movie on a boat. A good filmmaker can cover a low budget up in all sorts of ways, but the Soskas really weren't able to do so in this instance. Also, having gone to a few festivals myself, I think some of the usual things that occur at these events would have made Festival of the Living Dead feel more distinct from all the other zombie movies out there. Why is this festival such an interesting place to stage this event? If you can't answer that, then you shouldn't have a movie. Apparently, there's a meteor crater somewhere, but this is simply glossed over after it seems to be ground zero for the infestation. With this being the source point of the problem, one might think the group might have something to do with the destruction of the meteor that caused it all, but we never revisit the meteor after its introduction. Problems like drugged out parties, passing out from the heat, expensive merch stands trying to rip you off, trying to sneak whatever contraband one wants to smuggle into the fest, bands canceling and being delayed, or simply giving a bad show or an epic show. All of these things I associate with music festivals, but none of that is touched upon in the film. What we do get are some okay effects, but nothing we really haven't seen before. Overused contortionist actor Troy James does his usual crab walking shtick. Many of the zombies are simply wearing masks, while others seem to be sporting uninspired applications. These zombies walk or run whenever it's most convenient and can be incapacitated by smacking them in the face with a mic stand. So aside from the underdeveloped setting, there really isn't a lot Festival of the Living Dead offers by way of bringing something new to the subgenre. What Festival of the Living Dead does deliver is a whole lot of drama. Ash likes Kevin, but Iris thinks Kevin is a tool. The twin sisters, not the Soskas, though they do make an obligatory appearance in the crowd, are bratty to everyone. Kevin's buddy Ty is a douchebag. Ash resents her little brother Luke, played by Shiloh O'Reilly, since she has to babysit him instead of going to the concert. And wheelchair-bound Blaze, played by Christian Rose, is in love with Iris, but is afraid if he tells her, it will ruin their friendship. That's a whole season of WB shows worth of drama squeezed into one movie, but guess what? That's really not what I look for in a zombie movie. And it all feels like a distraction from the limited budget and the lack of new ideas. Thankfully, Ashley Moore is one hell of an actress and really shines here in multiple scenes of both drama and kick-assery. I checked her IMDb and she hasn't done much, but hopefully she'll do a lot more as she's the best actor of the bunch here. The rest of the crew are pretty strong as well, and it's the acting that ends up saving this run-of-the-mill zombie outing and making it a breezy film that I can't be mad at. George A. Romero's Dead films might have petered out towards the end, but they always had something to say and tried new things with the zombie genre. I wish the Soskas would have at least tried to carry on some of those themes from Night of the Living Dead into this quote-unquote sequel, but all similarities are just surface level. Festival of the Living Dead is watchable as a lo-fi horror time waster, nothing to wake the dead about, but because of the solid acting by the cast and its breezy and rapid runtime, I recommend Festival of the Living Dead to those not looking for anything deep between lazy Sunday naps. The Coffee Table, aka La Mesita del Comedor, is new in select theaters and available on demand from Cinephobia Releasing. It's directed by Caye Casas and written by Caye Casas and Cristina Borobia. Feeling as if he has not had any say in anything since he married his wife Maria, played by Estefania de los Santos, Jesus, played by David Pareja, demands that he pick out a gaudy coffee table to feel as if he's still able to make decisions of his own. Having just given birth to a baby boy, Maria relents and lets him get the table. This banal act proves to be the most devastating decision of Jesus' life. The coffee table at first seems harmless, but man is this film one sneaky rat bastard. It lures you in, making you feel sympathetic towards Jesus, who seems to be a good man despite the fact that he does get pushed around a lot by all of the people in his life. His wife is overbearing, he is bamboozled by the furniture salesman to buy the shoddy coffee table, and to make matters worse, the 13-year-old neighbor girl is in love with him and threatens to out their fictional relationship to his wife. All of this, plus Jesus is not certain he is ready to be a father, is quite a load to bear. Still, Jesus goes with the flow nevertheless. It paints a very sympathetic picture of the guy, and actor David Pareja sells this lovable loser with every step. The fact that you like Jesus is critical for what is to come at about the 20-minute mark of The Coffee Table. And no, you aren't prepared for it. And no, I'm not going to spoil it here. Just know that you're going to be hit with a punch so hard, you're going to think that Mike Tyson directed it. While the setting is a common apartment in a common home, writer-director Caye Casas and her co-writer Cristina Borobia were able to make the most mundane of environments the setting of pure nightmare. It takes your worst fears and makes them real in the most human of ways. The coffee table transforms into a grueling, tension-laden freight train for the duration of the movie. While you know there will be an unavoidable point in the film where the truth is revealed, Casas draws this suspense out to immeasurable lengths. Through Casas' direction and Pareja's acting, you feel every bead of sweat and every ounce of regret that fills every moment of this movie. Not only do you feel so horrified by what you witness, but you regret the inevitable moment when the cat has to be let out of the bag. What culminates in the climax is a perfect play with expectations, stretching your emotions to their limits, and grounding its heel into your heart at what the family must inevitably experience. The Coffee Table is not a monster movie. It's no slasher or found footager or kaiju or possession flick. It's the horror of being human, making mistakes, and having the strength to deal with them. It's one of the most disturbing films I've seen this year in that it burrows deep into honest emotions that you may not be comfortable with. I guarantee you will not forget this white-knuckle shocker from Spain. Have you seen any of these movies? Do you agree with my thoughts? Or do you disagree with them? Let me know down in the comments. Please do me a favor and punch that like button down below. Share this video with all of your social media addicted pals. Click subscribe to this channel and ring that bell for notifications. You're doomed to live the life you're meant to be. Stuck inside your